Alrighty. I just woke up, did a shit ton of dabs. I was like, yo, I'm so relaxed, in a good mood. Let's ruin that. Who am I to be in a good mood? Like, what the fuck? Remember, John, there's horrible people in this world. You gotta yell at them on the internet. How dare you be high and happy, piece of shit. Anyway, I watched like 3 seconds of this. I'm starting to like Ben Shapiro less and less. He's just kind of a rhetoric machine. What's the talking point today? What are, we fighting for to help people be happy? And how do I oppose that as much as possible? And that's Ben Shapiro's job. So, I guess the least I can do is yell at him. He's never gonna listen. Like, even if he hears my words, he'll never actually listen. The thing I'm starting to notice about Republicans, the more I get into politics... Let me turn this fan off. Y'all need to hear this. The more I get into politics, the more I realize Republicans aren't a real party. They're just liars. They're pretty much conservatives who like libertarianism when it benefits them. Other than that, they're not libertarians, but they will pretend to be. They will go against the rights of others, and general libertarian fucking beliefs like open borders and shit. And then when it's their rights that they feel are under attack, they just cry, freedom, it's my freedom, libertarianism. But then every other fucking topic, they're a conservative. So my point on that is they're not libertarians, they're liars. But anyway, let's get into why this libertarian thinks, people shouldn't be allowed to, choose what they're called.
I think that teaching kids, as we are now being told, teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns or...
Must. I mean, okay, it's just kind of a dick move not to. I mean, what if this whole time I just called you a girl? What if I called Ben a her? This whole time I just refuse to acknowledge that you're, a masculine person or wish to be, acknowledged as one at least. You project masculinely and as a male, and if I refuse to do that for a whole conversation, if I just refuse to tell you or acknowledge that you want to be called a man, I know your argument is, well, I am a man, and it's like, if you're talking like you were born with a penis and your birth sex is male, sure, I don't give a fuck. But if you don't want to be, cool story. I'm not gonna check your pants, bro. I'm not looking in there. I don't know if you wanted me to, but I'm not. You can fucking go by whatever you want at any point, and it's just the respectful thing to be like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever you want, I don't care. Like, dude, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, that's the actual libertarian belief, is that, fucking, even no matter what I believe on, like, is it true or not? Like, one, it shouldn't actually matter at that point, but even if I agreed with Ben over here, 100%, oh, transgenderism is nonsense, I don't care, dude. If someone wants to believe in nonsense, let them. As long as it's not harming people, I don't give a shit. Here's the thing, I'm an atheist, but I'm pretty fine with religion existing. I think it can be fucked up and misused and weaponized pretty easily, and that's a problem. But Other than that, if it gets you through your day, if it makes you fucking happy, believe in what you want. I don't give a shit. And like now we have technology and shit to like help people have a body that matches their gender identity. And once they, I guess, transition, okay, on a social level, it doesn't matter what is in their pants. It's polite to address people by what they want to be addressed by. That's where the conversation should end. But then once it gets into, well, what's really a man, blah, 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 what's really a woman, which is a conversation that is nowhere near as black and white as people like to say it is. Like, there's a whole gray area, and some people like being in that gray area and don't want to be judged for being there. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Let them. Who gives a shit? Like, the one fucking point I will concede is that sometimes the amount of like different pronouns can be overwhelming, and if it's used in a way that's either manipulative or used to purposely be contrary or whatever, yeah, sure, that's a different story that can be addressed in the moment on that specific one. But like, as far as like, just, I'd like to be called she, I'd like to be called he, I'd like to be called they, whatever. Like, simple ones are pretty easy to stand by and not intrusive to you or your language or anything in the slightest. And like, dude, I've talked to like people who I've accidentally misgendered, and as soon as they correct me, it's not like a thing where I'm like, oh, it's gonna be hard for, it's just, you just don't say that anymore. Like, it's not that hard. I guess if you don't think about your words ever, if you're not conscious about the effect your words have, I guess sure, then it's super difficult. But if you think for a second, you can be a little more careful. And even if you misspeak, it's, the fucking cool thing about the human language is we have the ability to go back and correct what we said and further elucidate the meaning we were trying to convey. But yeah, we can also use technology to change gender, which is fucking cool, honestly. It's like the future's here. And like, the thing is, gender dysphoria has existed for a while. Not for forever. It's just hasn't been properly fucking addressed as an actual thing. It's just been kind of like looked over and stigmatized and mocked as like, oh, you're just a feminine boy, oh, you're just a tom girl, blah blah blah. But like, there are people who genuinely have like severe discomfort being in their body because it just doesn't match up with the gender they align with. And when something about your body or mind is not aligning and causing you great distress, what do? You try to fix the problem the best you can. And I'm sure, and not just sure, I'm actually 100% positive, there is not just a surgery on the spot the second someone is even, it's not even once they convey vague gender dysphoria, it's once it's confirmed, and then they go through a whole therapeutic process to see if surgery is even necessary, because surgery is expensive and all that shit. Like, if I misspeak on some shit, feel free to fucking correct me, especially if you've actually gone through it. I'm just trying to fucking say what I've heard and researched on it as far as I have. But yeah, it's not just, oh, I feel girly, alright, let's get the scissors out, It's like, that's not at all how it fucking works. But then he pretends that is. He pretends it's just like we're throwing sex changes around willy-nilly, and it's like, no, there's an actual long process that in itself can be traumatic to people going through it, and like, understandably so. And like, it's just, but like, I don't see where his point of like, oh, people shouldn't be allowed to, I'm rambling a bit, I'll let him talk. I'm kind of I've watched a couple videos where he's done some transphobic shit and kind of implementing a response to those in here, but he hasn't said all that yet. So,
or that men can become women, women can become men, sex doesn't exist is a recent.
No one said sex doesn't exist. That's not true at all. It's just that sex and gender are different things, and your biological sex is still one thing, but technology exists where you can transition. Men can become women if they have the parts, I guess, and they want to be called that. Here's the like, again, it's hard for me to argue on like the level of like what's really in their pants when I've already stated multiple times I don't care what's in people's pants as long as they're not harming people. Who gives a fucking fuck, bro? Like, just let people be.
Op-ed in the New York Times said that's asinine, anti-scientific, and counterproductive.
So,
oh my god, I keep accidentally double clicking like an asshole. I shouldn't have came at this so stoned. All right, it's about time. People are calling me and shit. Everyone fucking leave me the fuck alone.
but my main disagreement with you is on the subject of transgenderism. And what I've seen in the past is that you said one of your principal objections to the transgender movement is that you think accepting them into society won't necessarily help solve their problems. Is that like a fair characterization of what you say?
No, I mean, I think that I don't think it's fair in the sense that I think everybody should be treated with a certain level of dignity. But what I have said is that I don't think that the high transgender suicide rate is attributable to societal intolerance.
Okay.
Statistically, by the way, that's already been disproven. Having one person, literally one fucking person in your life be accepting of you and your transition and actually acknowledge you as as the gender you wish to be addressed as, one fucking person literally drops the rate, I believe, over 90%. Like, he's not gonna say that because that fucking completely destroys his argument. We've already done this study, and like, yeah, dude, it's amazing how just one fucking person being nice to you makes your life a little better. Now imagine if, you know, everyone was just always decent. You know, like, suicide rates would probably go down quite a fucking bit, no matter what the demographic is. When, like, there's a whole, I guess, political side that doesn't think of you as, you know, the gender you want to be or that you are, or that you portray yourself as, whatever the right wording is, constantly telling you you're a man when you want to be a woman, when you're telling you you're a woman when you identify as a man. There we go. That's a thing I didn't expect with morning talking. It's not even the morning. I'm a lazy piece of shit. Fuck you. Fucking up all my words like this. Anyway. So, yeah, just, like, he's going to, like, say, like, oh, I just don't agree. Well, fucking studies and stats and facts kind of do.
So I sort of disagree with, or I don't think the empirical evidence necessarily says that. I've seen studies from UCLA that have drawn different conclusions, but I realize if we disagree on the empirical evidence, not much can be resolved here tonight. So assuming that it would help to accept them more into society.
Okay, real quick. I don't know how much this guy debates. He just brought up like a really good point, and then like he's too nice. He's such a sweet little fella. Like, he's just like, I know, like, like, no, dude, fucking hammer that shit. Like, dude, you have the studies. He's Mr. Facts don't care about your feelings. Empirical evidence, like, I don't know. I would have hammered that shit home, but he's being a nice guy, so let him go. Maybe that'll be more conducive.
Would you change your position on transgenderism?
So the position on transgenderism I want to clarify so that I can tell you what I would change and what I wouldn't change. So what I would not change is the idea that you cannot force people to call you what you want to be called.
Okay, so when it comes down to free speech, technically, yeah, you can't force me to respect that you want to be called a man. You don't have to respect that in return for me. We can just sit here calling each other females and whatnot, which I would find kind of sexist if it was done in that kind of way, but that's not the point I'm trying to say. Yeah, I can sit here and disrespect you on that level. You can sit here and disrespect me on that level. And, I mean, yeah, I have a fucking big fuzzy beard, kind of bitch titty, but not enough to be confused as female breasts. Some girls say I have a nice ass. I don't know. I never really seen it, to be honest. Let me humble brag over here. No. But, like, in the end, we're not looking in each other's pants. Like, you have no idea if I have a vagina. I have no idea if you have a vagina. And it doesn't matter. If you socially wish to be fucking addressed in a certain way, the polite and correct thing to do, morally, socially, whatever, is to just address people how they wish to be addressed within, you know, certain parameters of, like, you know, I'm not gonna fucking do a whole soliloquy fucking dance and song, you know. And at that point, they would obviously be doing that to be fucking contrary. But, yeah, like, for the most part, he's saying, like, you can't put a gun to my head and make me say you're this. It's like, no, we legally aren't arguing that. But we are saying, like, socially, it's pretty dickish. And at a certain point, if it's in the workplace or somewhere where it's unavoidable, it does become harassment. So, once it becomes harassment, then that is a legal problem. But that's very different than, you know, accidentally misgendering someone. Like, I don't personally know, this is anecdotal, blah, blah, blah. I don't personally know anyone who's transitioned, but I've known someone, like, acquaintance-wise, who was one gender and then the other, and then, you know, they transitioned, all that. And just because I was used to talking to that person and saying, oh, he, and just because, you know, mental logic, you slip up, but, like, if you do that, you say, fucking my bad, she. And, like, I'm not going to say every transgender person is going to be forgiving on that, but most people are like, all right, yeah, just please try to watch that, you know? And if you're being a fucking good faith person, being, like, actually trying to not offend people just to offend people, like, you're losing nothing but, like, a bit of a mental redirection every couple times you address that person. It's not mentally exhausting to the point where it ruins your fucking day or your life. Just fucking go with it. Who cares?
That is anathema to a free society. I will also not...
Yeah, but, okay. Again, he's... Again, libertarian... No, he's not. His freedom to say whatever he wants. But he's disregarding other people's freedom to not be harassed in the workplace, other people's freedom to have their own expression, freedom of just dressing and not being fucking discriminated against. Like, he's not acknowledging that other people are losing freedom by him having this freedom. And that's one thing these fucking fake libertarians, again, Republicans are not fucking libertarians, they're liars. They do not ever think about other people's freedoms that might be inhibited or taken away by their actions or lack of actions. They only care about their personal freedom, and that's what they will argue for. They will argue for their personal freedom, even if it means taking away freedoms from other people at the end of the day.
Change the idea that we should not indoctrinate children in blatant biological falsehoods, like there's no such thing.
Okay. So, indoctrinate children, Jesus. This is someone who would probably argue for the Pledge of Allegiance still being in schools. Just, again, reminding you that. But, no, accurately teaching biology is not indoctrination. If that's the medical consensus, that is what should be consensus. I fucked that up. Oh my god, consensus. There you go, John. If that is the medical consensus, oh fuck you. That is the medical consensus. There we go. You can say words, John. Get it out. Then that is what should be taught. No, you don't agree that what the doctors have all came. I'm trying not to say that fucking word again. What the doctors have all agreed upon should not be what is accurately taught. And here's the thing too, is he's making it out like this conversation beyond just, hey, this is how people identify, please don't be an asshole to them. Other than that, the conversation really isn't brought up to children until maybe, I don't even know if it would be in 5th grade when like sex ed would be. But even in that, like, I don't think they would go into the point of, like, trying to make them transgender or anything. Like, they're just teaching what we know about the topic, you know? And even if 5th grade is too young, like, okay, maybe you can... I don't think it's that young to fucking say there's, you know, men and women, and we're at a point in science where we can transition from one to the other if you have, like, you know, the money to do it and all that shit. But anyway,
Thing is male and female. I think it's very important that kids know there is such a thing as male and female, that these are real categories, and that...
Well, okay. Even further than, yes, there's the medical acknowledgement, I guess, of... acknowledgement isn't the right... There's the medical categorization. I'm fucking up all my words. There are categorizations used within language, within medicine, and again, he likes to go in between both of them when they're not really used the same way in general life. But there are, like, categories that we can point to, and we can say, okay, this thing is in this category and that thing is in that category. And humans generally like to do that just for an ease of conveying ideas, ease of conversation, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it is a social construct. There isn't... Okay, so there isn't a universal law saying this is a man, this is a woman. It is... He's religious, though, so I know he would say that. But objectively, nowhere in the universe does it say that a man looks like this and a woman looks like this. And then if it did, there are plenty of people that we socially would call men and women that wouldn't fall into those categories, either due to, like, medical issues or, like, medical differences. Not like, I'm trying not to use, like, words that make it sound bad. Like, there's just, you know, that gray area. And, like, we evolved in a way to, for the most part, have men and women, or what we can label as men and women. But, like, again, if we wipe the slate clean and like just forget language and all that shit. Like it's only there because we acknowledge it to be there, if that makes sense. Like it, okay, how do I explain social constructs in this way? Like social constructs that do have medical implications. Weed's wearing off now that I'm getting fucking worked up. All right. Yes, we do point to certain things, like, okay, this is a penis on a human that would fall into the category of male traditionally, and that's just because we can then look at male things and, like, then work on, like, oh my god, this, what's aggravating is I'm going into, like, a whole medical explanation that neither me or Ben are really capable of having, but he invokes it and then knows that neither of us are really able to have it, and then just is like, but like socially, we shouldn't even have to go there. But a man can have a surgery to get a vagina and breast implants. A woman can have, the opposite and stuff. All that. Science. It's cool. Get used to it, fam. It's only gonna get crazier.
A man cannot become a woman, and a woman cannot become a man. I think
that confusing children about this stuff. No, dude, like, alright. Low-key, you're confused about it, and you're like, oh, if I'm confused, kids must be. Kids, actually, they're just walking confusion for about, I'd say, fucking 25 years at least. And then it's a mildly less confusing endeavor, but especially like the first like fucking 10-15 years, you're just walking around absorbing information. Like, you're not confused in the sense of like, oh, but logically, no, you're just like, okay, if that's what the information is, and then they'll do their research, they'll fucking see why that is, or maybe something that scientifically shows something else. But like, the thing is, because a child can't understand something is not a good reason to take liberties away from an adult or just other children, like I heard a pretty good argument that that gender dysphoria can be identified pretty young, and it's much easier to combat it to address it if you deal with it before puberty, and if you deal with it after puberty, there's a lot more shit you have to do and blah blah blah, which makes sense and all that. So like, it's not just arbitrary and all that shit. I don't know, I'm getting angry and high and tired.
Confusing children about this stuff carries its own inherent dangers. Kids are easily confused and easily screwed up. So I think that would.
All right, the kids are easily confused. I mean, yeah, they're kids. Like, if you have any fucking conversation longer than like 3 sentences, they're probably gonna get lost. Kids aren't the brightest. I'm sorry. But at the same time, like, explaining that transgenderism is a socially acceptable thing is not traumatic to a child. It's not traumatic to anyone. What are you talking about there? Like, just explaining something like that is not damaging to anyone in the least.
Would not change. I've also said in conversations with people like Blair White, who's a transgender woman, meaning a man who believes he's a woman. I've said to Blair, like, if we were at restaurants or something and we were out to dinner together, I wouldn't go out of my way to call Blair White a he. I mean, presumably we'd be speaking in second person with one another. But at the same time, like, for the same reason that, there are people in my life who do lots of things that I just.
Okay, so socially you would oblige. Socially you would say she. I guess only in public though. Blair White's a weird example because she believes whatever the fuck she believes over there. She seems like a nice person, but like I think she got a little sucked into politics more than even she wanted to. But like, even like with Blair White, she transitioned already, and like, here's the thing, like, I'm already on board. Once you say, please address me this way, cool, I'm with you. Live your best life. But like, for people like him, after transition, wouldn't that be like, all right, you literally have the parts that I don't know. It's really, it's annoying because they don't have a goalpost to really aim for. They don't have any real argument that they're presenting to present an argument back on, other than like, you were born this way. Cool. So, we have science. Science is awesome. You can change what you were born as. Who gives a fuck? The libertarian response would be, live your best life, have fun, don't harm me. Cool. Like, I don't know. So I'm trying to rebuttal that, but the whole point is like, I just disagree with it, which is just circular reasoning. But
disagree with, and I don't feel it necessary to launch a conflict on the basis of that every time we meet. But that's a different thing than what the transgender rights movement is saying. What they are saying is that society should cram down on people.
Already, he's all right. Alright, I'm gonna have to feel obligated to point this out more often, because mentally I usually just skip past it, but cram down on people, like, notice framing. Framing is a very big thing that a lot of disingenuous people use to make their argument sound more impactful than it really is. No one's cramming down on people, whatever the fuck that means. No one's, like, it's not, like, he's making it sound like, you know, fucking people in fucking black boots and, are marching down the streets and making people, it's like, no, dude, just don't be a dick, please. Let people have their freedom.
Perceptions about biology that are false.
Well, doctors disagree with you on that, so, yeah, if you're, I'm also against teaching things that aren't true. So the thing is, doctors agree with this, though. Like, doctors acknowledge that transgenderism exists, but okay.
And we should treat it as bigotry if you use the actual biological pronouns for people. This is a form of
if you use it to be harassing or purposely harmful, yeah. If you purposely discriminate upon a person solely on the basis of that they transitioned, yeah, that's bigotry. Like he's framing it as if dictators have taken over and are forcing this down everyone's throats and making people, like, 1 out of 5 people have to transition, and that's not the fucking case. It's literally people have the freedom to transition, both, like, socially and fucking now physically, because science has caught up to a point where we can address a problem like that. So, you know, fucking let them. Libertarians. That's what you're supposed to believe.
bigotry and hate, which is nonsense. It's just something you don't like. There are lots of things I don't like. It doesn't mean it's a form of bigotry and hate.
Alright. That's a logical fallacy. Dun da da da. Yeah, okay. Saying someone... not everything you dislike is bigotry. No one said that. No one said everything we dislike is bigotry. And we're not labeling something as bigotry because we don't like it. We're labeling it bigotry because it's fucking bigotry. And then we just don't like bigotry. Like, that it's the way he's framing it too. Like, he's framing very heavily to make it sound super fucking like dictatorship-y and all that, and then like stupid.
And that's where I stand on this. So again, I think that you should try to treat people with as much civility as possible. And in my position as a public figure, I am very often speaking on the general kind of issue. I'm not speaking on one-to-one, out to lunch or something.
All right, so he doesn't have a real opinion. Like, here's if you're so steadfast on that, even like publicly, you'd be like, but I'm not trying to talk him into it. I don't want him to do that. But, so you're saying socially, you're willing to address people how they wish to be addressed, and anything further than that is not your business. And if Blair White hadn't told you that she was that she transitioned, you wouldn't really know. So, and like, you wouldn't know, and it wouldn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. It's their freedom to do that.
Something. And that's a little bit of a different thing. When my child is 4.5 years old, right? She comes to me and she will say, "Dad, I drew a picture. Do you think that it's good?" And the answer is yes. I mean, I love my daughter.
What this is this an anecdote? What the fuck is this? This is nothing.
Sure, the picture is great. Now, is that, if I'm an art critic, is that going to change my definition of good or art?
Okay, one, art. Sorry, that's my dog's name. So, well, his name's Artorias, because Dark Souls. Art is a very subjective thing. So already that's a very disingenuous fucking example. Like, do I still like what I like as far as art? Like, okay, that's not that has nothing to do with it. That, like, whether you like something or not, like even you just said, doesn't matter. So art is just a horrible analogy, horrible example. So again, it's not really something I can give a rebuttal to. It's just, that's not how that's working. Your opinion of an art piece is not the same as medical consensus. There you go. Maybe I can say it if I just say it in a fucking stupid way every time. I'm too stoned for this stupidity.
No, I mean, if I were the art critic at the New York Times and I were reviewing my daughter's picture, I'd say this is garbage. It's not good at all, right? I mean, but
all right, yeah. The guy's laughing along, but in his head he's like, "You're a fucking idiot," or at least I hope. Yeah, art's not a fair analogy to medicine at all.
my public position is that I am the art critic at the New York Times discussing issues of public importance and public policy. I don't think that it is the responsibility of other people to protect your fragile mindset. With that said, if people...
Yeah, well... Oh my god. I almost fucking blacked out on stupidity. Yeah, you'd be the one with the fragile mindset, though. You're the one who can't accept that other people, you know, use modern science and technology to help deal with gender dysphoria. That's your problem, dude. Like, gender dysphoria has been proven to be a real thing. It's not arbitrarily given out for tomboyishness or, you know, femininity in men. Like, it's actually like a thing that takes a lot of therapy and time and shit to actually identify in a human being, and then a bunch more time to actually address if transitioning is necessary. and then further more time to transition and all that shit. Like, it's not just a snap thing, but yeah, again, whatever.
People wish to do so out of a certain level of sympathy. I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if you want to, in interpersonal connections, do that. But I think that teaching kids, as we are now being told, teaching kids that they must use preferred pronouns, or that men can become women, women can become men, sex doesn't exist, as a recent op-ed in the New York Times said, that's asinine, anti-scientific, and counterproductive.
It's not anti-scientific. Like, if sciences came to that consensus, there you go, then that's science. Just because, like, anti-science is like just not using the scientific process and then saying whatever the fuck you want. But when there's a bunch of medicine, doctors, peer-reviewed studies and all that shit saying something, it's not anti-science. I mean, I'll concede that science doesn't always come to the right consensus 100% of the time, but it's getting it more and more right every time and every day. And I don't believe in any way this is one of those instances. Counterproductive in what possible way? How is that counterproductive, and to what? Asinine, I mean, I guess that's your opinion on that, but whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's that. Well, a little bit of a mental gymnastics to wake me up. Yeah, essentially that was all stupid. He really didn't land on a point. At the end of the day, he just doesn't want to acknowledge transgenderism as a real thing. I don't know why. It's real. People do it. People are allowed to do it. If you were a real libertarian, you would allow people to, take that freedom. But you're not a libertarian. You're a liar, just like every fucking Republican.